Would that, would the army kind of mentality give them a kick up the arse that's needed? Do you think?
I don't think so. I think that the whole thing is corrupt, the system,
Hmm.
and it's got more corrupt. Um, and I really absolutely believe that nobody's bothered. You know, when you join the army, you get given a number, right? When you leave the army, you leave with that number. And to most, I'm talking about when I left, I don't know too much about nowadays, but when you leave, they don't actually give a shit. You know, you're another number. That's all you are.
Yeah.
You're there, 27 years, next, and it goes on. You know, so why should you be out the army for 20, 30, 40 years and they get called back for an incident that happened all this time, all this years ago? You're nothing more than a pawn. People move you around, you know, and that shouldn't be right. A guy that's done his service, maybe been an incident or two, that happens when you're told what to do by your seniors, because if you don't do it, you get court-martialed. It's an order. Disobey an order. And then 20, 30 years, my good friend Dennis, how many times was he taken back to Northern Ireland? Eventually, he died on his last trip there. Um, it really is beyond, and if you haven't been in that, it's hard to explain. But you aren't anybody. You're nobody. You're a pawn for the ones that are left there above you to play with. That's the way it is. And I don't see any changes to that because, I'll be honest with you, just have a look at the governments we've had. They're not bothered. They go home at night. You don't see their kids getting, shot because they're never in the forces. Have a look at it that way.
So, what advice would you give to anybody like in the army, joining the army, in the SAS? What would you give them, like maybe to inspire them or to kind of rein them in, to kind of have them focused on a particular way to be the best they can be, their best self in the role?
Well, I've said this before, and the fact is that maybe myself now, if I was going to join the army now, knowing what I know now, I probably wouldn't have joined the army. But the fact is, I'm not telling people not to join the army. But what I am saying is, before you do that, you need to have a good look at what's actually going on, what you could be involved in. Do you want to be 20 years, 30 years after you're married and got 3 or 4 kids, or whatever, being dragged in before a court for something that happened 30 years ago? It needs a lot of thought, Ian. And,
Mm.
I wouldn't say to anybody who wants to join the army, don't join because of, because of what I did. I enjoyed it in the end. But what I would say is that they need to make themselves 100% certain that they're ready to face those consequences.